For nearly 200 years, one native nation stopped the empires of Europe dead in their tracks. They weren't in Paris or London. They were on the sun-scorched plains of Texas. They halted the mighty Spanish Empire in its northern advance. They blunted the expansion of the French. And when the first Americans arrived, they found a frontier that wasn't moving forward, but was being actively rolled backward. They were the Comanche. And for generations, they were the undisputed lords of the plains, building an empire larger than many European countries. They were, by many accounts, the most powerful Indian tribe in American history. Their skill in battle was so absolute that it forced the creation of entirely new fighting forces like the Texas Rangers, and even spurred the invention of new weapons like the six-gun, designed specifically to fight them. So what was their secret? What made the Comanche war machine so seemingly unstoppable? In this video, we're going to break down the answer. If you enjoy learning about the history of the Old West and the stories of the people who shaped it, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell so you never miss a new video from us. Before we get into today's video, I have something special for you. Do you ever watch an old Western and wonder, did that really happen? Well, we've put together a free guide called the Ultimate Wild West Fact Checkers Guide, and it debunks 25 of the biggest myths lying Hollywood shows in their movies. You get it emailed to you instantly when you sign up for our free weekly newsletter. Just head on over to nativejournals.com/subscribe to grab yours and find out the truth about everything from high noon duels to what cowboys really wore. Link is in the description. Part 1. The horse changes everything. To understand the Comanche's power, you have to know that they weren't always the horse lords of the plains. In the 1600s, they were a small, struggling tribe on foot, living in the mountains of the Great Basin. They were known as the Numunu, or the people. The name we know them by, Comanche, actually comes from a Ute word meaning enemy, or more literally, anyone who wants to fight me all the time. It was a name they would more than earn. Their world changed forever with the arrival of a revolutionary new technology, the horse. While the Spanish brought horses to America, it was the Pueblo Revolt of 1680 that truly let the horse loose, making vast herds available to the native tribes. The Comanche were one of the first to see the incredible opportunity. By the 1730s, they had completely reinvented themselves. They became the first plains tribe to fully base their entire way of life around the horse. This wasn't just about getting a new tool, it was a complete military and cultural revolution. On horseback, they became the most deadly and efficient bison hunters on the plains, turning the vast grasslands into a limitless supply of food and trade goods. But more importantly, the horse turned them into what many historians now call the greatest light cavalry in history. The horse itself became their measure of wealth and status. A man's power was measured by the size of his horse herd. They didn't just ride horses, they became master breeders, raising ponies specifically for speed, stamina, and agility in combat. This total fusion with the horse gave them an incredible advantage and fueled their explosive rise to power. Part 2. Forging an empire. Armed with this new power, the Comanche swept down from the mountains and onto the southern plains. Their main rivals were the Apache, who had long been the dominant power in the region. The war that followed was brutal and swift. Using their superior mounted tactics, the Comanche drove the Apache from the plains, pushing them south into the mountains and deserts of Mexico. By the middle of the 18th century, they had carved out their empire, Comancheria. This vast territory covered much of modern-day Texas, Oklahoma, New Mexico, Kansas, and Colorado. From this heartland, they defended their kingdom fiercely against all who dared to challenge them, whether it was other tribes, Spanish soldiers, or American settlers. They had used a new technology to conquer a resource-rich land and build an empire from scratch. At the heart of this empire was the individual Comanche warrior. From the time they were born, they were raised in a society where warfare was the main way of life, and all social status was based on a man's skill in battle. By the age of 6, Comanche boys could ride a horse bareback better than most grown men from other cultures. They were considered the finest horsemen who ever lived, able to perform feats that seemed almost supernatural to their enemies. One of their most famous tactics was the ability to drop their body to the side of a galloping horse, using the horse itself as a moving shield while firing a volley of arrows from under its neck. This wasn't a rare trick. It was a standard skill every young warrior mastered. While they were masters of the bow and the long lance, they were also pragmatic. They quickly learned the value of firearms and became experts at using pistols and rifles they got through raiding and trading. This fighting skill was backed by a deep spiritual belief. Success in battle was credited to having strong puha, or medicine, a personal spiritual power. But this could also be a weakness. If a famous chief with powerful medicine was killed in a fight, the entire war party might break off the attack, believing their spiritual advantage was gone. Part 3. The Art of the Raid. Comanche strategy was a masterclass in guerrilla warfare. They relied on speed, surprise, and mobility to terrorize their enemies and achieve their goals with as little risk as possible. They knew when to strike, and just as importantly, when to vanish back into the plains. Their most feared tactic was the long-distance raid, especially the ones they launched deep into Mexico. These raids were often timed with the full moon of late summer, which came to be known as the Comanche Moon. By the light of this moon, war parties could travel hundreds of miles at night, fall upon unsuspecting towns with terrifying speed, gather loot and captives, and disappear before any real defense could be organized. A key to their success was their logistical genius. Each warrior would have a string of remounts, allowing them to switch to a fresh horse whenever needed. This meant they could travel over 100 miles without stopping after a raid, easily outrunning anyone who tried to pursue them. This war machine was fueled by a smart and predatory economy. For the Comanche, war was not just about honor. It was the tribe's main industry. It was a business model designed to create wealth and power. Their primary targets were the ranches and towns of northern Mexico. For decades, they conducted massive raids, sometimes going as far as 400 miles south of the Rio Grande. They were after two things: livestock, mainly horses and mules, and human captives. The numbers are staggering. Between 1831 and 1848 alone, it's estimated they killed over 2,600 Mexicans and stole more than 100,000 head of livestock. They then took these stolen herds north and traded them to American settlers and traders for firearms, tools, and other goods. Raiding was the main way for a young warrior to gain wealth, status, and the ability to get a wife. This created a powerful cultural drive for constant warfare. Part 4. A Decentralized Power. One of the Comanche's greatest strengths was something that their enemies could never understand: their lack of a central government. The Comanche were never a single, unified nation under one leader. They were made up of numerous independent bands. Leadership was earned, not inherited. A chief held his position only as long as he had the confidence of his followers. This decentralized structure was a massive military advantage. For enemies like Spain, Mexico, or the United States, there was no single leader to defeat or negotiate with. Defeating one Comanche band had almost no effect on the others. A peace treaty signed with one chief meant nothing to the other bands. This made the Comanche an unpredictable, multi-headed enemy that could suffer a defeat in one area while launching devastating attacks from another. They proved their power time and time again. In 1759, a large Spanish force attacked a Comanche allied village, expecting an easy victory. Instead, they were met with a 4-hour battle that ended with the Spanish being completely defeated and forced to retreat in humiliation, leaving their cannons behind. This victory effectively shattered Spain's ambitions in the region. After Mexico gained its independence, the raiding only got worse. The new unstable Mexican government was powerless to defend its northern frontier, which the Comanche plundered for decades. When Anglo-American settlers arrived in Texas, they brought a new kind of enemy, one who wanted to either expel the Comanche or wipe them out completely. This started a brutal 40-year war. The Texas Rangers were formed specifically to fight the Comanche, but for years the Comanche held the advantage. A warrior on horseback could fire a stream of arrows in the time it took a ranger to reload his single-shot rifle. The balance began to shift only with the invention of the Colt repeating revolver, which for the first time allowed the Rangers to match the Comanches' rate of fire while on horseback. Part 5. The End of an Empire. Despite their incredible skill and adaptability, the Comanche Empire eventually fell. They weren't defeated by a better army. Their entire world was systematically dismantled around them. The first blow was an invisible one: disease. The Comanche had no immunity to European diseases like smallpox and cholera. A series of devastating epidemics in the mid-1800s swept through their population. Some estimates suggest that their numbers fell from around 20,000 to as few as 12,000 in just a couple of years. This was a catastrophic loss that they could never recover from. The second blow struck at the very heart of their way of life: the destruction of the buffalo. After the Civil War, professional white hunters, armed with powerful, long-range Sharps rifles, descended on the plains. They slaughtered the bison by the millions, not for food, but for their hides. This wasn't just a commercial enterprise. It was a deliberate, though unofficial, policy of the U.S. government. High-ranking generals like Sherman and Sheridan openly supported the destruction of the bison, knowing it was the fastest way to destroy the Plains tribes by eliminating their primary source of food, shelter, and trade. By 1874, the great southern herd was nearly extinct. This economic warfare was the death blow to the nomadic Comanche lifestyle. The final chapter was the Red River War of 1874 to 1875. In response to a Comanche attack on a buffalo hunter camp, the U.S. Army launched a new strategy of total war. The goal was to hunt the Comanche down relentlessly and destroy their every means of survival. The final blow came at the Battle of Palo Duro Canyon. An American cavalry unit found the main Comanche winter camp hidden deep in the canyon. They routed the villages, burned their lodges and winter food supply, and most critically, captured nearly 1,400 of their horses. The commander ordered the entire horse herd to be shot. Horseless, starving, and with winter setting in, the Comanche had no choice. On June 2, 1875, the last free band, led by the great chief Quanah Parker, rode into Fort Sill and surrendered. The era of the Lords of the Plains was over. The Comanche were not outfought. They were beaten because the world they ruled had been destroyed. The end of the wars did not mean the end of the Comanche people. The same warrior spirit that made them unstoppable was channeled into new forms of leadership and survival. Quanah Parker himself became a successful rancher and a respected statesman, walking in both the white and Comanche worlds to lead his people into the future. And in a final, incredible turn of history, the U.S. Army that had fought them for so long turned to Comanche men in World War II. These code talkers used their native language to send secret messages on the battlefields of Europe, creating a code the Germans could never break. The spirit that once made them masters of the plains did not die. It transformed, proving to be the most resilient part of their once unstoppable machine. What part of the Comanche story do you find the most fascinating? Was it their mastery of the horse, their brilliant raiding tactics, or their incredible resilience? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.